Hey guys, I don't know if you saw my post from earlier, but I'm attempting to create a first-person shooter game, and I thought I might show you what happens behind the scenes in creating these games. I'm creating this in Unreal Engine 4, which has been used on all of the Mortal Kombat games, the entire Splinter Cell series. A lot of AAA studio games have come out of Unreal Engine 4, which is extremely cool because it's a free suite and you pay them a percentage of your profits for using their software, which is really cool. So I've already got some things built and in place, but what I thought I might show you is I'm going to have the character be able to change weapons. So the weapons are going to spawn into his hand or hands, and he's going to have different poses for different types of weapons. So I thought I might show you how we make those weapons spawn into his hands. So for the first part, I'm in the event graph, and this is where we do visual scripting. You don't have to write code here. I'm going to sandbox this entire game and then come back and change some C++ code to make it do exactly what I want it to do. I'll have more control over it with the C++ instead of just this visual scripting. But I will sandbox it here, let it write the code for me, then I go in and modify the code. So we're going to create a bunch of nodes and connect those nodes to make it do what I want it to do. So to start off, I need to create a custom event. And I'm going to call this equip weapon. Okay. So I'm going to add some variables over here. I need some variables that are going to hold information for me, and that information can change. So the first variable I'm going to create is can fire. Can he shoot? And I need this to be a Boolean variable, a Boolean being true or false. Can he or can't he fire? The next one I'm going to create is he reloading? If he's reloading, he should not be able to fire. And the third one I'm going to create is, since we're able to change weapons, is he changing weapons? You don't want firing going on while you're changing weapons. That's how friendly fire gets involved. Okay, over here on the right hand side, I need to set some default values. First off, can he fire? I want him to be able to fire right off the bat. So I'm going to set this default value to true. I don't want him reloading right off the bat, so I want that set to false, so this is unchecked. And is he changing weapons? I don't want that to be set to true, so no, he's not. Okay, so I need to add an input here to this weapon, equip weapon. I'm going to call this weapon. And I need to set the type of this input to BP weapon base, and I've already created this weapon base previously, but it's going to be an object reference. So I get a pin here that I can pull off of. So let's compile this and save. There's a lot of compiling going on that we have to do to make sure all of our code is correct. I'm going to create a branch, which is essentially true or false. Can this happen? Actually, we're going to check a condition. This little red pin here, if a certain condition is true, something happens. If it's false, something might happen, or we just might not want anything to happen. First thing we want to check on this branch is he changing his weapons? So I'm going to drag and drop this variable right there. Is he changing weapons? I'm going to drag out, I'm going to hold down Alt and drag out is changing weapons. And this allows me to set the information for this variable. If I don't hold Alt and I drag it out, it asks me, do you want to get it or do you want to set it? This is a get. I'm getting information here. I want to set the information here. And I want to say no, he's not changing weapons. Because that's the default. He's not. So if it's false, then he is. Okay, I'm going to alt drag out the current weapon so I can set it. And I'm going to connect this current weapon to the weapon node on the equip. Now I don't like those wires running behind each other, so I'm going to create some reroute nodes. I don't like these not being straight, so I'm going to straighten those up. And I'm completely picky about how these nodes are set up. So I'm going to compile and save here. And I need to create a new variable because he now possesses a weapon, or should. So I'm going to say has weapon. And I need to check the enum to make sure I know what kind of weapon he has. And this is going to be something that I set up earlier called has weapon, which is an enumeration that has a list of all the weapons that he can have. I'm going to compile and save that. And the default value for this one is no weapon. So I'm going to alt drag this guy to the to the graph. Connect the execute pins and change that to has weapon, because he should have a weapon by now. So I'm going to create a new function, and a function essentially is I'm going to write a bunch of code, or not a whole bunch, but I'm going to write some more code and make it a single node. If I don't create a function, I could have these nodes scattered out all over the place. So creating functions allows me to nest code into one single node so I don't have it all over the place. So let's add a function, and I'm going to call this function show weapon. Okay. So I need to add an input for this node, and I'm simply going to call this weapon. And I'm not going to change the type, I'm going to leave it where it is. I'm going to promote this variable to, promote this pin to a local variable, meaning it's only applicable to this blueprint. And I'm going to call it local weapon to show. I'm going to create a new variable because I need to create some weapon slots. So weapon slot _01. I need to make sure that this is set to our BP, not BR, BP. Weapon base, object reference. I'm going to duplicate this because I have two slots that I need. 2. Okay. Now I've created a category for some of these variables so I can keep things organized. So I want to make sure I keep, actually I didn't create it, let's create it now. Weapon. Okay, so now I've got this weapon category over here so I can keep these things organized and can collapse them if I need to, because I hate to get lost, and you can get lost really quick in Unreal Engine 4. So I'm going to alt drag out weapon slot 1 so I can set it. And we're going to connect these pins. So I'm going to set the visibility of the weapon to be hidden in game to begin with. So set hidden, set actor hidden in game. And I'm going to compile and save, and that's it for this function. Wrong blueprint. Let's go back to the event graph for this blueprint. And I'm going to put that function right in between here. So I'm going to hold Alt and click to break this connection. I'm going to drag this function out. And as you can see, it's all in one node, which is a good thing. I didn't want all those other nodes to be scattered out here, because we're going to have another function add. Okay, I'm going to add a reroute node here, just so I don't have any more wires coming out, and I'm going to plug this into the weapon. And it irritates me to no end that these things do this, but I guess I got to live with it. So I'm going to create another function. I need it to spawn into his hand, so let's create a new function, and I'm going to call this weapon spawn. And let's add an input for this. I'm going to call this weapons. And make sure that this is set to a class reference instead of an object reference. Okay, fantastic. Let's compile and save that real quick. I'm going to promote this to a local variable, and local what are we going to call this? Local excuse me, local weapon to spawn, I guess. That works for me. Okay, so we need to spawn this guy from this class. So we're going to drag off the executable pin, and we're going to spawn actor from class. And we need to connect this purple pin for the class because we're calling it here. So we need to find out where the actor is. So we need to get the actor transform. Get actor transform. And we're going to connect the purple pin, oh, I'm sorry, not purple, the orange pins. Because orange goes to orange. Let's alt drag out weapon slot 1. To here. And we're going to connect the white and blue pins. We need to attach this to something. Attach to component. And that component, as you can see up here in our components panel, what do we want to connect it to? We want to connect it to the arms. So we're going to get that guy right there and put it in the parent. Now, we have to tell it what socket as you can see over here, what socket do we want it to be placed in? And that socket is going to be right down here, probably in the weapon point. Depending on if it's the assault rifle or the pistol, we want it to be in the weapon point. So, or I believe that's the case. We're going to check it out. So I'm going to drag off the blue pin of the spawn actor. And I'm going to search for socket. And I want to get attach parent socket name. So this is our parent. We have this socket name attached to that parent. And we're going to set all of these to snap to target. Snap to target. And this is a little compact. I'm going to spread this out a little bit. Let's give this some space, a little room to breathe. See what's going on here. We want to make sure that this is not welding to simulated bodies. We want to make sure that it is going to the right place. Okay, let's alt drag out current weapon so we can set that. And we need to drop the weapon slot 1 on our current weapon. So I'm just going to drag this out and drop it right there. And it's not going to let me make it straight. Okay, I'm going to alt drag out the has weapon enum. Connect it here. And we want to make sure that he does have a weapon. Let's compile and save. We'll go back to the event graph. And we need to add an input. So if we press a certain key, the weapon will spawn into his hand. So I'm going to say if I press the number 1 key, then that weapon will spawn in his hand. So I'm going to control drag has weapon enum. This is going to get the information. And I want to check if it is equal to our enum. And by default, we have no weapon. Okay, so I need to check this condition. I'm going to go ahead and move this back. I need to check this condition. So we're going to create a branch. We'll connect that to when it's pressed. And if it's true that he does not have a weapon, I can place a weapon in his hand. So if that condition is true, I want to call that function for weapon spawn that I just created. Okay, again, I could have had all those nodes inside this weapon spawn sprawling out from here. It's a lot easier when it's just one node. And let's say we're going to make this, number 1 is going to be his assault rifle. So I'm going to change that weapons class to the base assault rifle. Now, I'm going to call this, which could be a function as well, this custom event. I'm going to call it now. So equip weapon. Now I need to get a reference to the weapon. So I need to go back to the weapon spawn. I need to create an output for this guy right here to make sure that we can get to that weapon. So let's create an output. We'll call this weapon ref, and this needs to be a reference to the object weapon base object reference, and I need to go all the way to the end and connect that here. Where do we need to go from here? Let's see. Okay, we need to go from here to here. Probably would have been a good idea for me to plan this out before I recorded this video, but I didn't, and this is what we get. So let's compile and save that. We'll go back to the event graph, and we'll connect the weapon ref to the weapon pin. We'll compile and save, and let's create this for the pistol as well. I'm going to copy these nodes, Control W, and I want input 2 to be my pistol. Change that to pistol, and we'll compile and save, and let's see if all of this works. Let's go out to it. Okay, this is the default level. I did not create this. It was created already. I'm just trying to get my player set up, but let's play this and see if it works. Got that going on. If I press the 1 key, there we go. Oh, there's a stupid little shadow down there. I'll take care of that. And his arms are not showing up. Let's see what's causing. Oh, a lot of errors. Okay, we'll fix all that business. Let's see what could be causing that. I'll figure that out later on. Anyway, we play, we press, his arms are at his side so we can't see him. I can't see his hands right now. I'm going to fix that later on. I'm going to get rid of that shadow. The weapon seems a little too close to me, so I'm going to fix that as well. Let's get rid of that. We'll fix that. Let's see if the pistols work. And it is low as well and too close to me, but I'll fix that as well. Anyway, a little behind the scenes of what's going on in video game development. I'm trying my best, and hopefully I'll have something concrete in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know how long exactly this is going to take me, but I appreciate you guys watching if you watched it to the end.